Breaking news today. The White House has announced a $50 million bounty on Nicolás Maduro, labeling him the world's foremost drug trafficker. This dramatic step raises questions. Is it a measure to protect American citizens, or could it be a costly foreign entanglement that might worsen the existing crisis?
Hello, and welcome to That News Show, where we discuss the latest facts, fakes, and hypocrisy as reported by the legacy media. Let's roll the tape.
Fox News reports that the Trump administration has issued a $50 million bounty for the arrest of Venezuela's Nicolás Maduro. This figure surpasses the reward once offered for Osama bin Laden. One must wonder, is this truly about protecting Americans, or is it merely another instance of Washington's long-standing preference for global intervention? Historically, both Democrats and their globalist allies have engaged extensively in foreign entanglements, often at the expense of domestic issues like our border crisis. Now, it appears that Republicans are also succumbing to these interventionist temptations. Perhaps it's time to prioritize resolving our own national issues before attempting to orchestrate political outcomes in South America. Start the clip.
The Trump administration doubling its bounty for the arrest of Venezuela's President Maduro, accused of aiding drug cartels and gangs while running a corrupt and repressive government. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado joins us now to explain. Maria, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you on as usual. So this is $50 million. This is double what it was.
Doubling the bounty to $50 million for the arrest of Nicolás Maduro sends a powerful message about the seriousness of the threat posed by his criminal regime. Maduro is accused of collaborating with international drug cartels and gangs, transforming Venezuela into a nexus for narco-terrorism and corruption that extends well beyond its borders. The administration's actions underscore the gravity of the situation. This is not merely failed governance, but a state hijacked by criminal interests that jeopardize security across the region and at home. While the scale of this bounty is new, it prompts critical questions about American priorities and the risks of foreign entanglements. U.S. interventions in Latin America have historically led to unintended consequences, including costly nation-building, local resentment, and cycles of instability that have undermined the interests of ordinary Americans. The previous administration's approach, characterized by failed diplomatic efforts and indecision, only strengthened Maduro and allowed criminal networks to thrive unchecked. Although this escalation is justified by the magnitude of the threat, it must be balanced against the need to focus on pressing domestic issues. Maduro's regime is not only corrupt, but also actively hostile to democratic values, violently repressing opposition leaders like Maria Corina Machado, who bravely continues to advocate for the Venezuelan people. Her courage in the face of intimidation and her calls for democratic transition resonate with the overwhelming majority of Venezuelans who are united against the regime. Machado's vision for Venezuela, a country open to investment, privatization, and economic opportunity, contrasts sharply with the criminal enterprise currently ruling from Caracas. The administration's strategy of applying financial pressure, issuing criminal indictments, and supporting opposition voices represents a significant departure from past policies. By treating Maduro and his inner circle as criminals rather than legitimate leaders, the United States acknowledges the true nature of the threat. It is crucial that this approach focuses on law enforcement and accountability, avoiding costly interventions or nation building that could entangle the U.S. in another foreign quagmire. American interests are best served by supporting those who champion freedom and the rule of law, while remaining vigilant against the pitfalls of globalist overreach. The Venezuelan crisis starkly reminds us that unchecked corruption and criminality abroad can impact us at home, but it also emphasizes the need to prioritize the needs of our own citizens. Real change in Venezuela will come from the bravery of leaders like Maria Corina Machado and the will of the Venezuelan people, not from Washington playing puppet master.
Well, I'm very grateful, Rachel. And first of all, we are very grateful to President Trump for his decisive action towards freedom in Venezuela and the region. The Trump administration knows very well that Maduro is the head of a terrorist criminal organization that spans organized crime through the TDA and drug cartels such as Cartel de los Soles, and is the main source of destabilization of the region and a threat to the national security of the United States. So this is a breakthrough.
The decision to double the reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolás Maduro signifies a critical shift in the United States strategy against criminal regimes in our hemisphere. This substantial $50 million bounty reflects a proactive stance, acknowledging that Maduro's government has turned Venezuela into a nexus for narco-trafficking and organized crime. These activities not only destabilize the region but also pose a direct threat to U.S. security. This move marks a significant departure from the previous administration's policies, which were characterized by appeasement and indecision, allowing criminal networks to strengthen. The current administration is adopting a more dynamic approach, utilizing targeted law enforcement tools and financial pressures. This strategy aims to isolate the regime and encourage defections from within, steering clear of the costly military interventions and nation-building that have historically depleted American resources and diminished our credibility. Vigilance is crucial. The U.S. has seen mixed results from past foreign regime change efforts, which often do not align with the long-term interests of American citizens. It is essential to maintain focus on accountability and support for those within Venezuela, striving for authentic reform. We must resist overextending our commitments or assuming the role of global enforcer. Innovatively, the administration is employing secondary tariffs to specifically target those aiding Maduro, so increasing costs for enablers without burdening American consumers or taxpayers. Also, it's vital to acknowledge the broader implications of Maduro's regime, which has precipitated a humanitarian crisis and mass migration, impacting U.S. borders and those of our allies. The previous administration's ineffective stance allowed these issues to worsen, leaving our communities vulnerable to the repercussions of unchecked criminal activities. This situation highlights the ongoing divide in Washington, where political factions differ sharply on how to address these threats. As we approach the next election cycle, the choice is stark. Continue with ineffective policies that empower corrupt regimes or elect leaders who prioritize the safety and prosperity of American citizens. The path forward should balance strength with restraint, promoting freedom and the rule of law internationally without compromising our sovereignty or repeating past mistakes of endless intervention. Americans deserve a government that robustly opposes criminal regimes while prioritizing our national security, economy, and constitutional values.
This is a turning point that sends a clear message to Maduro, who is an illegitimate regime that has stayed in power by force after losing by a landslide a presidential election last year.
The substantial bounty on Maduro's head signifies a critical moment not only for Venezuela, but also for the entire region. Maduro's regime, maintaining power through sheer force despite a clear electoral defeat, is now widely recognized as illegitimate by Venezuelans and the international community alike. The opposition's detailed tally sheets and numerous reports from poll watchers confirm Maduro's rejection by a significant margin, yet he remains in power, protected by state-sponsored violence and criminal networks. Fox News has been at the forefront providing detailed coverage of this critical escalation. Their exclusive interviews with opposition figures like Maria Corina Machado give viewers an insightful look into Venezuela's democratic movement. By focusing on her experiences and the documented electoral fraud, Fox News effectively highlights the illegitimacy of Maduro's rule and the widespread resistance against his regime. Fox's coverage is notable for its accuracy, consistently citing evidence of fraud in the last presidential election and the regime's connections to international drug cartels like Cartel de las Soles and Tren de Aragua. The network boldly addresses the harsh realities. Maduro is not just a failed leader, but the head of a narco-terrorist organization that poses a significant threat to American communities and regional stability. Fox's visual storytelling could be enhanced by incorporating more on-the-ground footage that shows the daily realities of Maduro's governance. While interviews with opposition leaders are essential, visuals depicting the humanitarian crisis, mass migration, and economic devastation could better emphasize the urgency of the situation. Additionally, using maps and infographics to illustrate the reach of Venezuelan criminal networks would improve viewer comprehension. Fox News also excels in challenging the often costly bipartisan foreign policies in Washington, questioning the wisdom of continued U.S. involvement in global conflicts. This skepticism is justified, particularly considering the previous administration's ineffective diplomacy, which inadvertently strengthened Maduro's position. Also, Fox maintains a balanced approach by featuring Venezuelan opposition leaders who promote substantial reforms like economic openness, privatization, and a restoration of the rule of law. Hazarding these plans, which aim to attract significant investment and utilize Venezuela's oil reserves for national recovery, offers viewers a hopeful and practical alternative to the current regime. Nevertheless, the diversity of expert opinions on Fox could be broadened. Including more specialists in Latin American law, international security, and economic reconstruction would enrich the analysis and provide a more complete view of the challenges Venezuela faces. In summary, Maduro's regime, bolstered by force after losing an election decisively, is a threat not just to Venezuelans but to regional stability and U.S. interests. Fox News' thorough coverage, which focuses on factual reporting and elevates the voices fighting for freedom, effectively outlines the stakes involved. The ongoing challenge is to support authentic reform efforts within Venezuela while avoiding costly foreign interventions that could harm American interests and values.
Yeah, people forget Venezuela was once the most prosperous country in all of Latin America. Socialism, Maduro and Hugo Chavez before him absolutely destroyed this beautiful country I visited before all the chaos and the collapse. Very quickly,
Venezuela's decline from prosperity serves as a stark example of the consequences when socialist policies and unchecked governmental control supplant free markets and individual initiative. Once regarded as Latin America's crown jewel with the highest living standards and a robust middle class, Venezuela now sees nearly 70% of its population grappling with multidimensional poverty. Over 7 million people have fled the country, marking the largest displacement crisis in the region's history. The economic downturn began with government-imposed price controls and the nationalization of key industries, particularly oil, which is vital to the nation's economy. When oil prices fell, the government resorted to printing vast amounts of money to sustain its spending, leading to hyperinflation that reached 63,000% in 2018. Today, inflation remains around 220%, severely diminishing the purchasing power of families, with the cost of basic goods doubling frequently while incomes stagnate or vanish. This economic turmoil has left Venezuelan families struggling to afford food, unable to access basic medicines, and enduring frequent electricity blackouts. The healthcare and education systems have crumbled, forcing many to depend on money sent from relatives abroad to survive. The gap between the rich and the poor has widened dramatically, with the wealthiest earning more than 70 times that of the poorest, and organized crime now comprises a significant portion of the national economy. Small businesses, once pillars of growth and innovation, have been crippled by excessive regulations and currency controls. Many entrepreneurs have either left the country or are working underground, and the government's persistent adherence to failed policies offers little hope for recovery. An infographic illustrating this crisis would show Venezuela's GDP plummeting by 80% in less than a decade, with soaring inflation and poverty rates. The oil industry, which previously generated 95% of export earnings, is now a shadow of its former self, plagued by illegal activities and corruption. The broader implications of Venezuela's collapse extend well beyond its borders, with mass migration putting pressure on neighboring countries and facilitating the spread of drug trafficking and violence. This poses increased risks of illicit drugs entering the United States and intensifies challenges for border security. The agricultural sector, once a source of national pride, has been devastated, turning Venezuela from a net food exporter to a country reliant on costly imports and aid. And the manufacturing sector suffers from frequent power outages and a lack of investment, and even the oil industry, a potential avenue for recovery, remains underutilized due to poor management and international sanctions. Venezuela's situation is a sobering reminder of the disastrous outcomes when government overreach and socialist policies replace market-driven approaches, affecting not just the economy but also the dignity and freedom of its people. The lesson is clear. Safeguarding free enterprise, property rights, and sound monetary practices is crucial for national prosperity and stability. And there you have it. Washington continues to act as the world's police officer, funneling $50 million to Venezuela's authoritarian leader, while our own cities deteriorate, and Americans struggle with their bills. Both political parties adopt a tough stance, yet their actions regarding foreign interventions are indistinguishably similar, overlooking the pressing crises we face domestically. The previous Democratic administration spent years interfering overseas, and now the current leadership follows the same exhausted strategy. Why should American families bear the cost of another ill-conceived attempt at regime change? Perhaps it's time to prioritize our citizens over global elites. If Washington fails to recognize this, perhaps they don't deserve to lead. We look forward to reading your comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. We will see you on the next one.